Hello, everyone. Today's session is on body language for teachers, the basic techniques that are essential for a teacher for better communication, for better rapport with the students. Our body language is very, very important because our first impression is the best impression. When you go to a class the first time, they already have made mental notes of about the teacher, of what your personality is. More than the content, nowadays it is important to maintain your body language and give positive vibes to your listeners, because as I said, the first impression is the best impression and also sometimes the last impression, because it's very difficult to change perception once the students are making an image out of you. So based on the observations of teachers, how they teach in classes, and my personal experience of dealing with kids over a period of 25 years, I have noticed that body language is very, very important. You have to be confident, and at the same time, you need to be understanding to the needs of the students. You cannot be a strict disciplinarian, and nor can you be a friend to them. You need to find a balance between the two inside the classroom, right? So this session is basically for maintaining that body posture, how to stand, how to maintain eye contact, respect the proximity levels of students, etc. So I'm sure this is going to be very helpful for many of you. So a good body language is essential for effective communication. Unless we smile at the appropriate time, unless there are hand movements, unless there are head movements, we will become a robot. So the difference between a human being and a robot is that we have emotions while they don't have. They are able to get the information from internet as well. So as a teacher, how can I make it more interesting? That is when the emotions are involved. When I'm talking to a student, I acknowledge with a nod, I smile, I get angry, I change my body posture, and that way that makes the lesson more interesting. Otherwise, if a robo is taking the class instead of the teacher, then what happens is that the content is going to be excellent, but there is no emotions involved, right? The robo is not going to guess what the child is going through, whether the child has understood or not. Whereas the teacher, by way of his or her expression and by the body language of the students, can easily gauge the understanding level of the students, whether they are finding it interesting, whether they are finding it boring, and so on. So a positive classroom environment can only be built if, as educators, we ourselves have a positive body language. So I'm going to share some tips which are going to be useful to generate good body posture. The first is eye contact. When you're talking to somebody, it is important that we look into the eyes. Looking into the eyes also shows confidence. There are many people who don't talk to you. Their eyes will be elsewhere, or the eyes will be, down. So which shows lack of confidence. So as educators, I think we need to be, maintaining eye contact with our students. When we are talking to the students, we cannot afford to, look into our notebooks or textbook or the board and then talk to them. It doesn't make sense. The impact is not going to be there. The impact will only come when we are going to maintain eye contact, because eye contact shows that you are attentive to what the student is talking. If the student is maintaining eye contact to you, that means they're respecting you and they are listening to what the teacher is saying. So it's important that we don't look elsewhere on the notes or the textbook or the board or etc. or outside the window. But it is important that when we are talking to students, we look at them. Okay, standing tall and confident. Whenever we teach, it's a advice that we should always stand and teach. Sitting and teaching, actually the impact is less. There is no doubt about it that there are some people who cannot stand, there are medical conditions, but as far as possible, it is important that we stand and teach, because when we stand, we are able to see all the students. We give the impression to the students that we are making an extra effort. Okay, so it's important that when we are standing and teaching, when we are facing our class, we get the attention of the students in much higher as compared to when we are sitting down and teaching. There are many, of course, very good teachers who sit and teach also. That's an art which has to be mastered, and that is not possible by everyone also. I cannot personally sit down and teach, because the impact is going to be zero, because especially since I'm a math teacher, I have to constantly use the board. Unless I use the board, I cannot teach. So maybe in some subjects it might work. But again, I feel that standing gives you, when you have an open body posture, you can communicate well, you can move around, because sitting down at one place and then going out of the class indicates that you are not much involved in the class. The students don't get involved. You're dictating something probably, then if you sit down and then dictate and then go back, probably it is possible. But standing tall and confident, avoid slouching, for example, or leaning against the wall, or taking, the help of some desk and sitting down there. The professionalism comes when you are walking around confidently, using the board, going to students. That is important. Or you are not standing with your arms crossed and judging the students. Facial expressions are very, very important. We cannot have a dead face and give a lecture. As I said, the difference between human beings and the robo is precisely that. We have precisely facial expressions. We have emotions. And we can be happy, we can be sad, we can be angry. That is why every class is unique. Otherwise, every class that we have, if we know what's going to happen in our class and it's predictable, then the whole fun is gone, right? So every class of ours is different. Whether you've been teaching for 20 years or 25 years or 30 years, you will agree with me that the moment I step into the class, any class, I have taken that class probably 100 times, but when I go to the class 101st time, the dynamics are not same. The discussions are not same. Students are same probably, but then what they speak, how you deal with them, the situation is going to change. It's a very dynamic thing, and that's the beauty of teaching. It's not a regular office job where you are, going and doing the same thing over and over again. Our students are so dynamic that every day is a unique experience. And if I sit down and tell you stories of what happens every day, I think that itself is a big, huge session. Because every day you are carrying back with you experiences of what happened in today's class. So every day, as a family, when we sit down before retiring to bed, we share stories of what happened in our workplaces, or, what happened in the whole day. And every day there is, half an hour or 40 minutes stuff where you can share, okay, this thing happened, this thing happened, this thing happened. And you are carrying back so many experiences from this. And you become better and better because you are carrying this experience. And that is why it's important to, give freedom of expression to our students in our class. Because if you say that I want pin drop silence when I teach and nobody is going to ask any questions, then you are missing out on so much of action that can happen. And it's going to be learning. Probably they have some alternate method of solving. They have some information to give you, which we are not aware. So if we make the learning process a two-way process, we use a lot of facial expressions, I think students also are going to approach you more. If we have a smiling face, we have a face which is not stagnant throughout those 40 minutes. I can agree that there can be anger, there can be, some students distract you, but I think all that adds up to the dynamism of the class. So facial expression is important. You show your warmth, your friendliness, your enthusiasm with a smile. And you have to smile genuinely, because children are the best. I think they are teachers. They are very good teachers, because they are going to teach you a lot of things. Gone are the days when the teacher was, teaching whatever he or she knows, and there was no feedback received. So feedback is important. What the student is trying to tell you, whether they've got an alternate method of doing, they have some alternate ideas, give opportunities for students to express their thoughts. It could be sometimes non-academic also. Sometimes we need to encourage that also. It is not necessary that we have to stick to that, because they may have some experience of travel, of reading, and they want to share that. And probably, in some way they are able to connect this. So it's important to give our students a chance to speak. Otherwise, if we are in a class where the teacher is not allowing us to speak at all in any way possible, either subject or non-academic, that becomes a very, a claustrophobic experience sometimes for the students, that they are not able to express. And teachers who give chance to students to speak are well appreciated, that I have seen. They are very comfortable in telling you so many things which they will not normally tell others. So it's important that you get constant feedback. That's how we improve as educators. And we need to use a lot of gestures, whether it is raising of eyebrows, that is an indication to someone probably, or just raising of hand, or, clicking your fingers, clapping your feet, or just putting the excellence sign. All these gestures sometimes also work. We need not speak. So gestures are important. Gestures are important. We cannot just sit there without any gestures. So when we go to these schools which train you for speaking, they tell you your hand movements, the way you keep your hand, the way you keep your head, how you look at the camera is very important. So these are gestures which are very important, and sometimes you are identified by the gestures that you make. Sometimes during some programs they try to imitate you, and then you realize, oh yes, this is the mannerism that I have. I do this. Some people may be having long hair, so they will have this habit of adjusting the hair, or looking in a particular way, or raising the eyebrows, or they have this. They can imitate you very easily, some of them. And so it is important that while gestures are important, excessive movement or distracting movement should be avoided, because then they start associating that this teacher does this. And when you are getting associated, it's time to break the habit, right? So sometimes when you're wishing the students, little bit, you put the bow, you bow your head a little bit. Some teachers have this habit. So when they start noticing that, they will also do like that. And then you realize that, okay, this is the habit that you have developed over a period of time, and I need to be normal. So what happens? Otherwise, you get associated with a particular act, and you're going to get branded. So it's important that we don't articulate too much. Excessive movements of hands, excessive movement of the head. So any excessive distracting movement should be avoided, but it should not be absent. So it's important, because otherwise the message is there. Moving around the classroom is very important. As I said, sitting down in the classroom does not give you the opportunity to move. You don't know what's happening in the corners of our class. Our corners of the classes are very creative. Somebody will be drawing your picture. Somebody will be, playing some cross and knots. So it's important to move around and see what is happening. The front benchers are those who are doing all the studies, they're copying down, and then you are watching them doing it, and you are happy. And secretly, you may be knowing that, things are not as per your wish happening at the back, but then you don't make the effort, or you ignore those students who are at the back. So moving around is important. Sometimes we have to go there, have a casual talk with those students. You need to build a rapport with those students. Try to bring them in the front or rotate seats. In some classes, I have seen the class teachers will rotate the seats. The last will come in the front, then they go to the second, then they go to the third. Every week this happens, or daily change happens. So it's important. Otherwise, they get stuck to those last seats, and some students get stuck to their first seats. So as an educator, it's important to move around. It's of course good for your health also that we move around instead of sitting. Our blood circulation improves, and we are able to give much better output as teachers, as educators, when we move around the classroom, because every nook and corner of the classroom we take care. Otherwise, if you're taking a general class, what happens is that there are 50% of the class maybe attending your class. The other 50% are doing their own work and may not be in tandem with what you are doing. So it's important to create that engagement. It's important that we create that connect, a purposeful connect. That's important. And therefore we should move around. The next is the open body posture. Like some people cross their hands and sit like this. So as a supervisor, so we are not supervising them when we are in a class. We are actually a mentor. We are a facilitator. And therefore our body posture should be such that we should be approachable. The student should feel that he, sir or ma'am, should be approachable. Whenever we are going with a problem, we will not be ridiculed with the question, or we will not be scolded. So open body posture is important. Okay, so crossing of arms and legs should be avoided, which is a defensive mechanism. So which means that I'm not interested in you. Don't ask me any questions. Keep away from me. So these are the thoughts which goes when we have a closed body posture. So our arm should be relaxed, and we should have our eye contact, and our body language should be such that we are approachable to our students. At the same time, considering our cultural and social norms, we need to be mindful of personal space. Sometimes when a student does well, we pat on the back, but make sure that the cultural and social norms are respected, because in some communities and some places that may not be the norm. Okay, in some schools I have also seen, they will do a high five, and they will shake hands, and they will hug each other and all that. As I said, so depending on the social norm, please don't invade personal space. Don't think that people are going to enjoy that shaking of hands. It's important, or a high five you are giving. So for you, it may be a big thing that you are giving a high five to a student who did well, but at the same time, they may not be comfortable about it. So as I said, depending on the place where you are, the school you are, what is the ethos, what is the culture, what is the, we need to maintain our distances, be aware of the cultural norms, and then try to do things as per that. So, although we need to build a good rapport with the students, we need to congratulate them with our actions and words. We need to be mindful of the personal space. Active listening, I think this is which is lacking in a majority of us. Not only as educators, but as human beings, we have a tendency to talk a lot, but listen less. Okay, so we have 2 ears so that we can hear more, and we have one mouth so that we can talk less. So when we have 2 ears, what is happening is that we should listen more, especially to people who are wiser than us, more experienced than us, those who have traveled a lot, those who have read more, those who have experiences. It's important that we listen to them. Also, it's important to listen to our students, our colleagues. Listening always helps. The problem is that we don't want to listen. When we listen, what happens is that we need to be active listeners, and active listeners can only be acknowledged by your body language. That is by nodding of the head, appropriate facial expressions, maintaining eye contact. Somebody's talking to you, you cannot look at your mobile and do something else. It is disrespectful. So what is important is the eye contact. That means you are attentive to that person. So while students are speaking, while students are answering, while students are questioning you, it is important that we become active listeners. We are not bothered about what's happening elsewhere. We are giving our 100% to that student. So that's a very, very important point. And using proximity. Proximity is a very good tool I have seen, especially in maintaining discipline. Somebody is a backbencher creating a lot of nuisance. Somebody is a hyperactive child. You go close to that student, ask questions, tell him not to do it. What is troubling him? So you're going close. You're not standing in front of the class. Believe me, when you shout at the class, nothing is going to change. It's only going to spoil your mood and it's going to increase your blood pressure, nothing else. What is important is you go to that particular student, find out what the problem is. A gentle touch, as I said, if culturally appropriate. Otherwise, there are so many issues that are going on because of these things happening in many schools. So if your culture or the society accept that, a gentle touch is going to work miracles. Okay, the child is going to feel special, especially in the primary thing. A pat on the back goes a big way in a student getting acknowledged for the work that he or she has done. So be mindful about the comfort. If the student is not comfortable with this, a pat on the back or you shake the hands of the child, then don't do it. It is you can put a star or something like that. That's important, or a diary note where there is a positive feedback written there. So this is important. Reflect positive energy. I think as educators, if we go to our classes with sad faces and our classes are, however interesting, the student will say that this teacher, is low on energy. It's important that we go with charged up, with positive energy, display enthusiasm and passion for the subject. Never say that this topic is boring. Because when we ourselves are not enthusiastic about the lesson that we are going to teach, how do you expect the students to get interested in that? Some teachers already come and announce that today we are going to take up this topic and this is not very interesting or this is very tough. Then already you have created that mindset that the topic is not interesting, the topic is tough. Why do we have to announce that? Let the students decide all that. So what our job as educators is that we go with a lot of enthusiasm in the class, irrespective of our personal problems, our relationships, our attitude to colleagues, or you may be having, you may be sick from inside. But when we are going to the class, whatever possible body energy that we are having, we need to exhibit that so that our classes become good. So the positive energy display, our body language should be such that we are beaming with confidence, enthusiasm, happiness, joy, because then only that lesson is going to be interesting. Genuine excitement always inspires students. If you're not excited about something, then we shouldn't do it, because actually then we are destroying a lot of students. Because I have heard so many people saying that, I love this subject, but because of this incident that happened, I no longer like this subject, because maybe disdain for a teacher, maybe a teacher has done something, and they carry, especially young children, they have this notion that if you love the teacher, then you love the subject as well. As they grow up, of course, then what happens is that more than the teacher, the content delivery becomes important. But when we are talking about young students, then that emphasis on the teacher is very important. How kind we are, how have we talked with them, how you're making them feel, that is very, very important as educators. Many ex-students come and meet you not for the content that you taught, but the love and care that you gave for them. So it's important that that is so positive energy is always contagious. Positive energy is always contagious. We have a superior who is very positive, full of enthusiasm, that spreads to us. So imagine the same thing is happening to our students. If we are full of positive energy, our body language is positive, then we are going to spread that to our students. Joyful learning is all about that. And we are going to inspire students to learn and do better in their academics. So body language is very essential. It's a complement to verbal communication. So we had a previous session on communication, the importance of effective communication. If you haven't watched that, please do watch that, because communication is very important. What we are trying to communicate, the students should understand. If they are not able to understand that, then we have failed in that first step itself. And the second comes the body language. So body language is going to complement our verbal communication skills, and both together is very important to so that you become an effective temperature. So our body language, whatever we are exhibiting, we need to be cautious of that. Don't overdo anything, don't make a conscious effort to do some things, but whatever you are doing naturally, it should be such that it should be very receptive, and it should be, as I said, the body posture should be such that that you are comfortable and your students are comfortable in that. They shouldn't feel that you are someone who is difficult to approach. So you are going to, by embracing a good body language, by showing your confidence as an educator, you are going to enhance your teacher effectiveness, and you are going to establish a positive classroom environment which encourages learning and engagement. So I want to wish you all the best. It's important that we stay positive, and these positive vibes are going to bring about a change in your classrooms. So effective communication and a good body language to complement your effective communication is going to go a long way for you to become an effective teacher. Thank you.